Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at BTC. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, before we jump into the lower degree counting here, I just want to go over a couple of the ideas here that we're looking for on the bigger picture. So there's still the potential that we're looking at. This is 1 2 1 2 here, and that would be looking for that bullish count, which would be looking for a direct break to the upside once we finish this wave 2. Now, if we are looking at this move here, we'd say this is our 1, this is our 2. Now, we're looking for potential to come back down here between this 382, which would be this 28,699, to this 786, which is all the way down here towards this 26,080. Now, invalidation of this potential would come by crossing this move here, and what we'd be effectively looking for is this move looking to find support and then push to the upside. Now, I have taken this 1618 target here off of our current low. This would mean we'd have to see a move up towards 42,252 to mean that we are within a bigger wave 3 here. This is what we like to see for that confirmation of a bigger trending move, and then we'd be looking potentially for a 4th and a 5th wave, which could look to push us up towards this 46k region. Now, if this is the case, this would effectively become a bigger wave 3 here, and then we would have continuation after this forms to the upside. Now, if we start to look to break down below the 786, or this move starts to get a bit too large here, what we still have is the potential that this could actually be a bigger corrective structure forming, where we are actually still looking for this potentially as either a B wave or a wave 2. Now, if we do look at this in this way, what we could then argue is that this could actually be W here, this could be an X wave, and then we're looking for this possibility of a Y wave to the downside. So I'm just going to slide this over here for a second, and we're going to talk about this idea of a bigger WXY. If we're looking at this as a WXY, our target areas that we want to see as a minimum for this Y wave would be this 28,419, which would align quite nicely with this high that's sitting over here. 1 to 1 would actually look to bring us back into this channel that we have. So if we do see price continue to push to the downside here, we could see price move into this channel, and that would actually align with coming back down into the lower end of that target box that we just went over. Alternatively, if we want to look at this move slightly different and we want to say that we actually complete into this high over here, what we could then say is that we could be starting to form a 5-wave move to the downside. Now, this would be this other target box that we have over here, and what we'd be looking out for is the fact that this could become 1 2. This could even be a 1 2 1 2 here, and then we start to break down in a bigger 5-wave move. And now our target area for this, typically speaking, would be this 25,360 to this 23,646. So we need to be very careful that until we start to break some of these highs here, we could still see that continuation down. So we're going to get into the idea of this looking to break down as this Y wave, and then we're going to continue on and talk about what could happen if we get a impulsive move down, and then as well as one of the other potentials here that we could still be within a bigger corrective structure here where we have to push to the upside first. So we're going to go over all these things within the video, so make sure you stay tuned to get all of that analysis. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty up the top end of this. In the previous video, what we were talking about is a couple of potential options here where we could say that this could actually be our A wave completed here. We're looking for a B wave, and now we're looking for the C wave. C wave 1 to 1 is here at this 28,797, and what we need to see is a nice clean 5-wave structure down here. Now, we were also talking about the possibility that we could see something along these lines, in which case what we could actually see is that this B wave could be completed and the C wave completed already, and we could be looking for that possibility of a break to the upside. So we need to be careful of that idea. Now, there is also the potential here that we could still see one more drop to the downside, and what we'd be looking for effectively would be something along these lines. So let me just drag this across here, where we would be saying that this is 1 2, this is actually our 3rd wave into this low here, and what we're looking for is this is a 4th wave and a 5th wave to the downside. Now, invalidation of this comes by crossing this 29,571. If we cross this level, this would invalidate this idea of this being 1 2 3 4 5. So if we do break back above that, potentially this could mean that this is actually a completed move, and then we're going to discuss what that could mean in a second. The problem is that because we are looking for that possibility that this could be turning into a bigger 5-wave move here, what we need to be cautious of is that, if we get something more bearish here, something along these lines, where actually what we have is this is a 1 2 here, and then this move here is 1 2, this is 1 2 here, we could actually start to break down in a bigger way something along these lines where this becomes 1 2. We fail to break back above the highs here, and then we can see that continuation down. So because of the fact that we have this 5-wave structure, we always need to be careful of this idea of a bigger breakdown. So the bigger breakdown is effectively looking at this move as a completed move into these lows here. Now, we were talking about the possibility that this could be a fourth and a fifth here. This is no longer valid because effectively nothing within this structure is big enough to constitute this move to the upside here. Now, what we'd be saying here is that if this is not a fourth wave in the way that we're saying that this is 1-2 over here, what we could actually have is that this in itself could be an additional 1 and a 2. So for as long as we actually fail to break above the 786 level, which would be this 30k, if we fail to break back above this zone, effectively we need to be careful of the idea that this move could actually continue to the downside here, where this becomes 1-2, and then we would see a bigger third wave to the downside. Now, I have taken this off of this golden pocket area here, which is sitting towards this level here of this 29,772 to this 29,820. This would align with coming back into some of this horizontal support that we've got over here. Alternatively, 50% is also coming up into these lows. So this would also be an area worth keeping an eye on. If we do see price look to break to the downside here from this point, effectively we need to be cautious. A move down towards this 1-to-1 at this 28,314 could just mean this is ABC. And then if we do start to break down deeper here, we have that possibility of this third wave coming into play towards this 27,448. So this is going to be our area we need to keep an eye on. If we do see a move down in this way, though, we need to be very careful, because this could actually indicate that either we have this as 1, all of this becomes 2, this becomes 3, 4, and 5, or alternatively, this could become 1, 2, this could be another 1-2 here, we have another 1-2 here, and this means that effectively once we complete this 5-wave move here, we'd get an additional fourth and a fifth. So we'd have to watch those fourth wave retracements and watch these previous fourth waves, and wait for that break above it for more confirmation that the corrective structure is completed to the downside. But this would give us that idea of actually coming down in a 5-wave move, so we need to be careful of that possibility that we could still see that play out. Now, with this, we were also talking about the possibility that we could see something a bit more tricky playing out here, where what we were saying is that, because we haven't developed this as a fourth and a fifth here, if we see price break back to the upside and take this high over here, which is this level of this 30,350, what this could mean is that this move could actually just be either A, B, and C, where we're still looking for the B wave of this bigger zigzag idea here, where we're looking to come back up into this higher zone here of this 31,299 to this 30,367 level. So if we do see something along these lines where we actually see price continue to hold these lows and start to break to the upside here, some areas that I'm going to be keeping an eye on would be this 30,314 to this 29,967. If we do see something along these lines where we form this as a series of 1s and 2s, we get a bigger third, fourth, and a fifth, and we get a 5-wave move up in here. If we want to say we're going to get a bigger continuation to the upside, what we need to see is 3 waves down holding this low. If we get a 5-wave move up here and then price actually breaks down and takes this low, this confirms the idea of a flat here and would mean that we got another 5-wave move to the downside, looking for this as either a wave 2 or a wave B in this sense. So we need to be very careful. If we do see 5 waves up, we need to see this continue up past the origin of this move here for confirmation that this move is looking to trend properly. Now, the lower target would actually mean that this effectively would be something like a running flat here. Alternatively, if we look at this as a different target, so in relation with the B wave here, what we could see is if we're going to see this extend up, and this is actually going to become an expanding flat, so where the C wave breaks the A wave high, what we would be looking for is potentially either a move back into this 1-to-1, which we could just slightly overshoot it, or alternatively, we could look to move up higher here towards this 1618, which is sitting at this 31,412 and this 30,789. So that would be looking at this idea of this flat correction looking to play out here. So we need to be very careful with this bottom structure here. We aren't just breaking down, and we're getting quite close to that validation. So it's starting to look less and less likely, as long as we fail to stay below this point, that the idea of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is playing out. If we break these highs and we invalidate this move by crossing above this 30,417, this would eliminate that idea of this being 1 2 1 2 here. So we need to just keep an eye on this area as well. Now if we do look to invalidate this, my next likely thing that I would be looking for at the moment would be something along these lines here. So we talked about this in the previous video, saying, you know, we could be looking for this as a bigger B wave here, where we say that this is our A wave, we have this as a B wave down here, and what we could see is 5 waves starting to develop to the upside here in a bigger way. So if we do see something like a 5-wave move develop up here and we find support again, what we could see then is a 3rd wave develop in another 5-wave structure, 4th and 5th, which could look to push us back up into this area here. Now if we do see something like this, what this could mean is that we have this move actually developing as a C wave. So if we just reject in this area between this zone of this 32,344 to this 31,519, we'd have to be very careful that this isn't just a B wave here, and we do then get a C wave to the downside. Now depending on how deep we actually come up to the upside here, what we could actually see is if we came up towards this 1382 area, what this would mean is we could potentially see a move back towards this 1618, which is sitting here towards this 29,026. Alternatively, because this is a flat correction here, we could even potentially see some extension where we could see price come down to some deeper levels like this 27,427, but this would be after having a break to the upside. If we do see 5 waves to the upside here, it's going to be important whether we get 3 waves down, hold support above this low, and then whether we see that continuation starting to develop to the upside here, looking to say that we are starting that bigger move to the upside. Now the problem that I have currently with the current structure down the bottom here is it is very difficult to make out a 5-wave move in here. There are some potentials here, but it's very unlikely given the current structure. Now what we could argue is that what we have is actually this is our wave 1 and then this is a wave 2 here. Now if this is the case, what we'd be saying is that we have this as our A wave, this is our B wave, and this would be, it would actually be W, X, and Y rather for wave 2. Now this is not as common as a zigzag, and what we'd then be saying is that this could be 1, 2 here, and we could be looking for this 3rd wave to the upside. Now the target we'd be looking for would be this 1618 sitting here towards this 29,709. Now it's also possible within here, we could also argue that this is something like this, where this becomes 1, 2. We have this as some kind of an expanding diagonal here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another wave 2 here, so this becomes 1, 2, 1, 2. This becomes another 1, 2, and then we see a much bigger move up. So this is why we need to be very careful with trying to count this as a sort of impulse. It's not the greatest of structure yet, but what I would want to see here for more clarity is first a move up above this 29,709. If this is the case, even within these current moves here, it's currently looking very corrective. It's only 3 waves at the moment, but this could always become a bigger 3rd wave, something like this, in which case this starts to tie into the idea of this move looking to extend out. For more clarity, what I would want to see is a move up to 29,940 here, and then we'd want to see an additional 4th and a 5th wave up for as long as we actually stay within our typical 4th wave rejection area, which would be looking for within this idea of this break to the downside. So as long as we actually stay below this level here of this 29,596, we can actually see continuation. So we've actually invalidated this idea of this 5th wave to the downside. So this idea now is no longer valid. So effectively within this, what we'd be saying is that the only way that this could still be looking to break down in 5 waves is we have this as that secondary idea where we could still get rejection in this red box. If we start to break above this 786 and we start to see price move to the upside here, 30,350 is going to be our zone that we're looking at. So all eyes on the idea of that impulse, but really at the moment all we have is a corrective structure to the upside here. So our 1-to-1 has been met here already at this 29,578. I'm going to throw on some other levels here that we could potentially see a reaction off of, which would be this 29,692, this 29,763 as possible extensions here. But if we start to hit some of those higher targets that we just went over in this idea of this unlikely breakout here, 29,709, we'd have to start looking out for that potential that we could get some fourths and fifths playing out to the upside here in this way. So gonna have to keep an eye on that. Okay, so having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that these are very tightly spread, indicating that we're going to get some volatility. Now, we have actually broken above our S1 and our previous day high here. So this could actually mean that we could potentially start to trend. Obviously, what we need to see is these levels hold if this is the case, 29,387 and this 29,372. If we do continue to push up through these levels, upside targets for today could be this area here of this 29,704. We have this 29,869 as possible upside targets for today. If we do see this continuing to extend out here though, we could actually see price move through these levels. If we do reject off these zones, what I would be looking for is potential support to come back in towards the daily high, possibly here at this 29,378. If we do move down lower here, we have the central CPR lines at this 29,212, and then we also do have these lower levels below us, 29,061, 28,891, 28,728, and this 28,562 as possible downside targets for today. Now, if we have a look at the weekly CPR here, what we can see is that we still are below our central lines here. So we have actually come up towards this S1 line. If we do look to push up higher here, I'm going to be on the lookout for possible rejection between this zone of this 29,958 to this 30k region. If we do see price push up into these ranges, we could see a rejection and then that continuation down in that idea here that this could actually be one, we get two, and then we break down in a bigger way for a third wave. So going to be keeping an eye on these levels if we do see price get up there, but we are starting to reject a little bit off of this S1 line. If we do move to the downside, possible targets for this week are still at this 28,681, though price can always look to move through these zones, so we need to be aware of that. If we do look to move to the upside here and we look to actually reclaim these central lines, what we could see is price could move towards 30,492, 30,902, and this 31,403. So if we start to develop that 5-wave structure up here, like I said, what we could have is that, you know, this could be A, B, and then we get a C, and then this move over here still has that possibility of a break to the downside. But if we start to see this becoming a bigger 5-wave pattern here that's going to look to move up into these highs, then it becomes more likely that actually that bigger idea of that C wave to the upside is looking to play out, though it could also turn into a third wave if we do find support above the low. So always going to have to keep an eye on that idea. Now, our monthly pivots are looking more along these lines. We have actually come up here into our top central pivot line here, which is sitting at this 29,682. If we continue to reject off this level, we could see price either come back down towards these lower zones here of this 28,901, or potentially just get a retracement here and then look to attack this level again. If we do start to lose this central line here, downside potential could come towards the bottom pivot line here of this 28,113, and then we also do have, you know, this lower target down here towards this 26,363 if we do start to lose the lower central line here. So if we do lose this level, we could potentially see price come back down into these zones. Now, if we do start to look to break to the upside in a bigger way here, our monthly targets to the upside that are still open is this 33,000. We have this 35,540, and we have this level here of this 39,631. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those levels if we do see price look to move to the upside. Now, at the moment, as long as we remain below this high here, you know, there is still that potential that this can become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm a little bit more cautious just because the structure is not great here, that until we actually break above this high here, the likelihood becomes that this is going to look to continue to the downside. Though if we start to hit some of those targets that we talked about within this count here, so particularly this 29,709 and this 29,940 for even more confidence, what I would then be looking for is 3 waves to the downside. If we start to develop 5-wave structure to the downside, this means that the probability is that we could look to actually break down directly. And, you know, like I said, we rejected off that monthly CPR. Now, what I want to see is whether we hold support if we get a retracement here, or whether this actually just looks to break directly down. Now, it can't be a fifth wave, like I said, so if that's the case, we'd be looking for this as either 1, 2, looking for a third, fourth, and a fifth, or A, B, and C to the downside. So we are going to be looking out for those potential targets if we do see price come down here. So just one more time, 1 to 1 would be here at this 28,314. 1.618 would be here at this 27,448, and validation of this idea comes by crossing the high. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.